So, it's officially that time of the month, Sonic Characterization Discourse. For example, we have our friend Amy Rose over here. How many times over the years have people argued about her characterization? Don't worry, more on that later. Shadow the Hedgehog? I mean, come on, forget about it. Sonic, the main character himself? Don't even get me started. IDW, Black Knight, Sonic Prime, Sonic Frontiers, Ian Flynn. Take a deep breath. It's gonna be okay. This stuff happens all the time. Act like you've been here before, okay? So yeah, we're talking about that stuff again, because if you guys didn't know, there's a brand new Sonic racing game coming out called Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. It's essentially the big release of the year. We're not getting any mainline games. This game is going to be the main focus for Sega. And due to the fact that we're in this like everything is canon era of Sonic, we now have a lore council. They're trying to tie things up and make things a little bit more connected. They're really trying to focus on the writing and the plot of these games, because that was a big criticism of the 2010s. People didn't like the direction of the franchise. They wanted to go a little bit more back to the roots. Here we are today, and in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, the discussion about the writing for the characters is back into the forefront of the fans' minds. So what exactly is the cause for the latest discourse and discussion surrounding the writing of the Sonic characters? Well, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds put out a tweet, and they said in Grand Prix mode, there are 500 types of character exchanges with selected rivals and more than 1,000 voice lines. Keep an eye out for exchanges between characters with some history together, as well as those that have never interacted before. Now, I gotta say, to me, this is definitely excellent fan service. I love to see like dynamic, ever-changing interactions between characters, depending on which one you pick. Can you imagine an interaction between like Sage and Shadow and she's roasting him, or like an interaction between Metal Sonic and Sage? I think that'd be pretty cool. Characters that don't really interact much, popping off on each other, like I think that's pretty dope. The Sonic Racing Cross Worlds account even showcased an interaction between two unlikely characters, Jet the Hawk and Zaz.
Who's this runt? Out of the way, short stack! I'm here to race against the best!
Then you found him. There isn't anyone who can match my skill or speed. See you at the finish line, chump.
Imagine being stuck with those two in a room listening to them yap for 2 hours. That sounds like a nightmare. And it's not all adversarial. We even have wholesome interactions like this one between Sonic and Cream.
This is it, Mr. Sonic. Our big moment. I'll do my best to keep up with you.
Don't just keep up. Go for the win. Just do your best and have fun out there, okay?
So we have 1,000 unique voice lines. So there's going to be a lot of character interaction. So naturally, Sonic fans are a little bit upset with how certain characters have been written so far. So now that we have kind of the context for the discussion, now we can get right into it. So our first interaction is between Sonic and Shadow, and there's actually a couple of them. So based off of what we've seen for the game so far, maybe depending on which vehicle the character is using, it will change up the interaction between the same characters. So far, we've seen at least 2 different interactions with Sonic and Shadow. Here's the first one.
I didn't think you knew how to have fun. What's the occasion?
I relish any chance to surpass you. Prepare for a humiliating defeat.
So that wasn't the only interaction between Sonic and Shadow. As a matter of fact, no one really had anything to say about this in terms of the writing. Actually, most of the discussion was really surrounded around the voice actors for this and Shadow acting like Vegeta. Well, technically, this interaction wasn't all positively received. Like, if you look at this post right here, it says that this is like Sonic Boom level banter, and it's like rehashing the 2010s dynamic between Sonic and Shadow. This post right here says that it's actually worse than the 2010s because it's simply rehashing the rivalry that was established in SA2 as the banter for Sonic and Shadow. And this post right here says that the meta era in general never actually left because it's just been masked by the stories being a little bit better than they were in the past. But this wasn't the one that set people off. There was more dialogue that caused a lot of discourse for the writing. So here it is, the dialogue that set everybody off. So Sonic and Shadow once again have another dynamic or unique interaction. And in this one, Shadow says, "Today we will settle it, Blue Hedgehog." To which Sonic replies and says, "Oh, we already know, but I guess I need to teach you this lesson one more time, faker." And that is the dialogue that put everybody into flux. So here's what some side of the fandom was saying. Sanj really hasn't called Shadow a faker since SA2 until Flynn started writing them. I don't know why he's writing them like this. This post says, "I hope the JP dialogue isn't that bad." And by the way, there is some distinction between the two scripts. People have been quick to point that out as well. The JP and English script are different. This one says another SA2 reference. It's really getting annoying. So you see some of the sentiment that's out there. It's not everybody, but it's not nobody. And this post right here kind of sums up the argument that people have. Sonic and Shadow perpetually saying faker and Blue Hedgehog, I feel like, is a regression of their characters, as it shows a lack of respect respect for each other, which in nearly every game prior to the more recent ones was not a thing. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, the reason why Sonic ever called Shadow a faker to begin with is because Shadow was mistaken for Sonic at the time. So that's why Sonic had a right to call him a faker, because he thought that he was impersonating him. In turn, the only reason why Shadow called Sonic Blue Hedgehog is because he didn't know who he was, and he's a blue hedgehog. The reason why Shadow doesn't call him by his name in Sonic Heroes is because he didn't have his memories. So it's like, we have context for the reasons why he wouldn't call him by his name, but now at this point in the game, I do actually kind of agree with this sentiment. Like, why is Shadow calling him Blue Hedgehog? I really don't like that, honestly. Does it really matter? I mean, listen, it's a spin-off racing game. These are throwaway lines. I don't think there's even a story mode or a plot to this game, so no, it doesn't really matter. But conversely, there is spillover into the mainline games, because in Sonic and Shadow Generations, there is a cutscene where Shadow does call Sonic Blue Hedgehog. So it's kind of like a nitpick, but at the end of the day, I think the best written versions of the dynamic between Sonic and Shadow is probably like the end of Sonic Adventure 2. You could tell that there's a real mutual respect and admiration for each other's abilities. Instead of like the cheap, petty one-liners, you kind of expect stuff like that in the beginning of the game when they're adversaries. I also kind of like how their dynamic works in Sonic 06 as well. You can tell that there's that real mutual respect for each other, whereas now I don't really see it as much. So it's just something to keep in mind with respect to the writing. Now, there's one thing that really sets people off, and I think this one was a little bit more significant. The dialogue and banter between Sonic and Shadow. Yeah, it's a racing game, chalk it up to that. But Amy Rose has dialogue in the game that people really didn't like. So if you take a look at this post right here, it shows a character dialogue interaction between Jet the Hawk and Amy Rose. Let's roll the clip.
In the spirit of competition, I wish you a good race. Just keep the trash talk to a minimum, please.
The only trash around here is your driving skills. Save yourself the embarrassment and over.
So as you can see, that's very different than how Amy Rose has been traditionally written throughout the history of the franchise. This post says right here, everyone says the worst thing about Ian Flynn is his references. Oh no. The worst part about Ian Flynn is that he doesn't know how to write Amy Rose. Sonic and Shadow's Faker and Blue Hedgehog thing is just banter. This is a character assassination. This person says, I am of the opinion that Ian Flynn is actually a pretty good writer, but hot damn, this might be actually the worst line ever written for Amy. This person says, yeah, okay, I'll admit, I'm drawing a bit of a line in the sand here too. I appreciate the efforts to mature Amy up a bit. Her festiness has always spoken to her strength. Where is the fire? And I honestly agree with the sentiment as well. This person says, I didn't mind the new Amy in Frontiers because the whole game was trying to be more serious and down to earth, so it didn't quite stick out. But now with this and the Generations rewrite, she is now boring. Like, I think about Amy Rose's character from back in the day, and one thing that I feel like is missing is kind of like that short temper that she has to kind of match Sonic. Like, think of that episode of Sonic X where she like goes on fire, takes her hammer, and takes out an entire Eggman battleship just by herself. Like, what do you mean no trash talking? There's a lot of instances in the Sonic franchise where she has a lot of personality, she has that temper, she has that anger. In an effort to make her character more mature, a lot of fans are arguing that they're stripping away core fundamental aspects of her character. This is something that's been going on for a while. A lot of Sonic fans have been talking about it, and yes, it's a spin-off racing game. It doesn't really matter that much, but people are wondering, like, how is this going to affect the next mainline game in terms of the writing and dialogue? Like many others, I do certainly appreciate that they're trying to make Amy Rose a lot more of a likable character by making her just a little bit more mature, because there were a lot of people back in the day that really hated her character. They thought she was extremely over the top with some of her antics. It's probably best to find that natural balance and do a little bit of what you've been doing, but also do not forget the core fundamentals of the character. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, I'm sure the discourse won't end, but I did find it pretty interesting. Are you concerned about the writing for the future?